Yankees are headed to the American League Championship Series. Diego Castillo picks up the victory.
Welcome to, unfortunately, the abrupt finale of the Suge and Mooney MLB postseason series. As I stated in the first episode, we do these as long as the Yankees were still in it. Not to seem bitter, but like a sore loser or anything, but like who really wants to keep watching after like your team's out of it? So, and you wouldn't want to watch this if we were given like half-hearted insights and stuff like that. So we for now we're playing to our strengths, and we're gonna talk about the Yankees. So series went the full 5 games. Last night Garrett Cole pitched on 3 days rest, and Tyler Glasnow pitched on 2 days rest for about I think what was that, like 2 or 3 innings, and then
Yeah,
they went to
like
the
two.
yeah, and credit where credit's due. Like Glasnow, you wouldn't even know like he pitched like 6 innings 2 days ago, but it happened. So the game, it was 0-0 for a while. Then Judge hit a home run, and it was 1-0. And then um Renfro, or it was Renfro or Meadows. No, it was Meadows that hit a home run. That, to Joel's estimation, he thinks Judge would have caught if it wasn't he wasn't hindered by the padding in Petco Park. So it remained 1-1, and then in the bottom of the eighth inning, of course TBS had to hype it up because they gotta make things interesting. Um, the Rays sent what's his name, Tom Brousseau, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
Brousseau, to the plate. And him and Chapman had the whole incident where Chapman, to me, I feel like it just got away from Chapman just from watching Chapman um every day. But with Chapman's like personal personality and his stuff off the field, a lot of people wouldn't give him the benefit of the doubt, and they think like he threw 100 miles an hour at Brousseau's head in that game. And um it was a 10 pitch at bat, and Brousseau hit a home run, made it 2-1 in the bottom of the eighth. And then top of the ninth, the Yankees basically kind of went out um without a whimper. And the Rays are going to the American League Championship Series to face the Houston Astros, and the Yankees are, for the fourth consecutive year, not the team that's carrying the American League pennant. But game two, this is a game where the Rays started Glasnow, but the Yankees kept their starter a secret up until um I think after game one. They announced who was starting game two, and they announced it was going to be Davy Garcia. So like what was your thoughts, Joel, when they like went to they announced Davy Garcia as a starter before the game?
Like automatically, I just thought, why not have Tanaka pitch game two?
Mm-hmm.
Because like Tanaka, like I said, even on the past episode or playoff recap, I've always said that out of the two pitchers, Cole obviously he earned his paycheck, but that getting more on that later. But he earned his paycheck this season, including the postseason, because he did his thing. So he proved that at least he's worth that contract. So, I obviously had high hopes for Cole and Tanaka because Tanaka has great playoff period, like great payoff numbers, period. Like he always shows up in the playoffs. Like regardless, World Series, ALDS, ALCS, regardless, he always shows up. He pitches, gives you a good probably 7, 8 innings. Maybe he gives up 2 runs, three, but you can still, he still gives us a chance every single time to come back and win. So I don't understand why in a 5-game series with no days off, you just go with Davy Garcia for game 2. Like that's Tanaka's game, like regardless. Like, and I feel like you put Tanaka game 2, we're up 2 games to none instead of being, tied, 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
All you really had to do was put Tanaka. Tanaka has the track record. Tanaka has proven himself. I think this is his last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if
Yeah, he's gonna be a free agent.
yeah, so you know what I mean? Like that's not a good way to I'm assuming, they don't sign him. That's just a horrible way to end your Yankee career. And honestly, I don't see them signing Tanaka to anything other than like probably, being fourth or fifth pitcher, but whatever. That's neither here or there. I just know I was really just shocked that you wouldn't start Tanaka in game 2 with his proven track record in the postseason. Like he would have probably most likely won that game.
Yeah, I agree because they had him pitching in game 2 of the Cleveland series. And I agree with you. Like, Tanaka and Cole, that's the 1-2 punch right there. That's the most of all the starting pitchers we had. Obviously, Severino is out for the year. Paxton got injured. Um, Hap is, inconsistent. Davy is pretty much like a rookie. He's only started, a few games. But, the thing with Davy is throughout the year, he's been either the second or the third best pitcher for the Yankees as a starter. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
for a rookie. So, like I asked, like, how do you how I felt about Davey starting? I was like, all right, you got him for like an inning. I mean, you got him. Well, that's what happened in the game. I was thinking that he would have pitched like 3 or 4 innings, and then you go to the bullpen and you figure it out. Because after game 1, now going, this is a thing too. You got to talk about the relationship between the games. Game 1, it was a tight game for most of the game, and then at the top of the ninth, Stanton hits a grand slam, and it's a blowout. So they didn't have to use Chapman. You didn't have to use your heavy relievers. Game 2, you're like, all right, you got a full bullpen. You got Green, you got Britton, you got Chapman. Like everybody's available to you. So you give the kid like 3 or 4 innings, soak those up. He's pitched against Tampa before, so he's pitched to them like not so much. So it would have been unfamiliar to him. And the inning that he did pitch, like he gave up a home run, but other than that, like he seemed all right. People said he had jitters. I didn't see it. But Hap was up in the pen like in the first inning. Like he was already up throwing in the bullpen. So I'm ahead thinking like, all right, he's gonna come in if like things go bad. And then the next inning comes on, and Hap comes in, and I believe we tied it in the bottom. Yeah, because Stanton came up and hit a home run and tied it, so it was 1-1. And then they brought in Hap, and then all of a sudden it's like 5-1. He gives up 4 runs in like 2 2/3 innings. So he was like wholly ineffective. Um and he kind of blew the game like out of he kind of let the game get away from him. And then the I believe it was Loizaga or I think it was Loizaga came in and he gave up like 2 more runs. Well, actually, like Stanton came up and hit like a 3-run home run, so it was like 5-4. And then Loizaga comes in and Green comes in, and they both give up a run each. So now it's like 6-4, and then I think somebody like Choi hit a 2-run double, so it was 8-4, and that was basically the way that game went. So my thinking is in game two, like, why try something new in the playoffs? They tried to do the whole opener thing, and that's like Boone's defense. And people are saying like Boone didn't make the decision. This was a decision from like the analytics department and Cashman and stuff like that. But Boone is the one who's has to like answer for it at the end of the game. So if he's taking the criticism, I'm gonna heap it on top of Cashman, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm gonna heap it on Boone, if that makes sense to you, Joel.
Yeah, I understand. Like, that's something you don't do in the postseason. Like, you had a 60-game regular season to try that out, to do that, and you didn't do it there. And that's like also my problem with Boone. Like, you were once a player yourself. Like, I don't know why you're even listening. If it is true that it was analytic team and this, that, and the third, you were a player yourself. Like, at the end of the day, analytics, it sounds good, probably works, but just use your gut instincts as a player. And like I said, I have no idea why you just don't start Tanaka. Like, it's just the obvious reason. Like, you already know not to put Stanton to hit, a bat ninth, because you already know his bat is too important. But like, let's say analytics say, oh, he in this situation he could be good and batting ninth. Like, nobody's gonna think that. Nobody's gonna, oh, analytics says Stanton would be good and batting ninth right now in this game for whatever situation. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, so if you don't do that with the pitcher,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah,
like to me, right? So what he says is like, I guess like what he thinks like the fans and the media are probably thinking is like, if they hadn't done it, we definitely would have won, which is what he thinks. Like that's what he thinks that we think. But my thing is, I feel like the outcome is irrelevant. But like I can't definitively say we would have won. But to me, I feel like what they did made it the decision they made it harder, made it difficult for the Rays to lose, and it made it difficult for the Yankees to win. That's that's where, and I won't even call it second guessing because it was the wrong decision, like in general, like and that's what I'd appreciate if he said just like, listen, you know what, we tried something, it didn't work, and in hindsight, like it's something we shouldn't have did. Cause like
right,
even Hop, he said it like he wasn't fully invested, and like I heard like Michael K say about Tampa, because of course that's another thing they tried to like outsmart the Rays, which I think is ridiculous. Like, why the hell are you the highest payroll, big spending, biggest market team, and you have to shift your game to go up against a team that's like basically like just trying stuff out and like winning. You know what I'm saying? Like for the Rays, like they have to be creative. Like for the Yankees, you don't have to. It's like you said, you put Tanaka on the mound or you put Davey on the mound, you let them pitch. Then you got a lineup up and down that was up until last night scoring like runs. Like they scored 9 runs in the first game. They scored 31 runs in 3 games up until that point. And then they still scored
yeah,
4 runs in that game. So it's like you could have just put out a regular starting pitcher, let them do their things. And you know how like pitching works. Like you gotta be out there and you gotta get in a rhythm. Like even last night's game, like Cole, he kind of like was, all over the place in the first inning. And then as the game got on, he got back in a rhythm. And then he fell out of his rhythm when the guys like Torres had like errors behind him and stuff like that. Like the series, like we got eliminated last night, but I think we lost the series in game two. Because to me, in the playoffs, you can't give away games. Like at the end of the day, you have to try to win, and I don't think they put themselves in the best position to win in that game. Like in the playoffs, you just gotta try to win today. Like, and I told you, I was like, you can't like when you start trying to peak at the next game, like that's when you start to lose the game that you're playing now. So they tried to do that, and I guess like they thought like Tanaka was gonna be like their safety net in game three, and that surely wasn't the case because he got hit hard too.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you can't depend on the next game. Now, if Tanaka, they started Tanaka and then Tanaka pitched like crap in game two, and then you went to game three and you started like Montgomery or you started Hop or you started Davy, right? And then you lose that game, right? Like with game two, like they're asking everybody in the lineup, they're asking all of everybody about game two and why that decision was made. Like you're asking Judge, you're asking Stanton, like, oh, like, do you think they made the right decision? And that's like people are it was not left up to them. So what I'm trying to say was they created a distraction between games two and games three by the decisions they made in game two. And I think that traveled over to game three, and that's why we lost game three. Like I was watching game three and I was like from the first couple innings, I was like, I think we're gonna be down 2-1.
Yeah. Listen, like, I give some blame too, as well, like to some of the hitters as well. Like I understand we're like a home run hitting team, but every home run is only worth one run, especially when there's no one on base. So you're up there, trying to trying to hit one run home runs. There's nobody on base. You got to get somebody on base. You got to try to get on base so that the next person behind you could hit a home run. So
Mm,
like they were all up there trying to hit, 458 for home runs, like or moon shots, this, that, and the third. But like understandable, but there's nobody on base. So you
mhm.
even if you do hit the home run, you're only scoring one run. It's not like your 458 foot home run is gonna count to five. That's not how it works. So you got to get on base. Like so they gotta again, and I'm understand that's the Yankees thing that home run hitting team, but like some way you got to get on base. You got to at least hit a double. Learn how to Stanton, for example. I said before his line drives are like at 100 miles an hour. Like you hits one on the ground, they might catch it. They might just like might hit it right past them, right underneath their legs. They might even like fumble it or bobble the ball trying to catch it, whatever, because it's so fast. So he could get on base like that. Then you have someone like Voigt, for example. Now that he's on base, now Voigt could hit the 2 run home run. Now it's worth two instead of just one. But they was all up to the plate trying to hit home runs, trying to like go one run each. Like that's not how you win games as
Yeah.
well. So a few of the blame goes to the hitters as well. Granted, Stanton showed up as well. He's another one. Cole and Stanton this playoff season, this playoff, they really showed like what they could do. So that Stanton, what was it? He 5 straight home runs, postseason games or
Uh,
something like that.
five. I think yeah, it was like 5, 6, and 5. I
Yeah,
think.
so he proves he could hit home runs, but like okay, all of those home runs probably like you said the grand slam he hit, and I think he hit another 3 run home run. So like I said, Stanton definitely showed up in
Yeah.
terms of home runs, but everybody else, like Sanchez is a big disappointment as well. Like
So
honestly, like yeesh.
yeah. So now that you talked about the series as a whole, I'm gonna talk about the rest of the series. So you brought up Stanton, like, and you talked about Cole too, like, which is interesting because they're the two highest paid players on the team. They got the biggest contracts, and both of them stepped up. And Stanton,
Yeah.
of course, he gets a lot of he gets a lot of crap because his contract and his health and stuff. But he was healthy in the series and he performed. Cole, he started 3 games. The one against Cleveland was awesome. The first game, he didn't pitch like great, but he pitched well enough to win, and they won. And then last night he pitched well enough to win, and I do believe like the error in the fourth with Glaber, um and he had, that made him have to throw like 20 more pitches, and he's already going off like short rest. So I think that burned out like a couple extra batters he could have had. um and I thought game 3, like I can't even remember the score of game 3, but um actually I do, because it was
8-4.
eight to
Rays.
8-4, and game 2 was what, 7 to
7-5.
5.
Yeah.
So those games, like game 3, it was predictable. It was a wash. Tanaka gave up like some home runs, and Tanaka. That's what happens to Tanaka from time to time. But I just felt like the cloud from game 2 like carried on to game 3. Like, if you give Tanaka a game, like he can win, like he's like he could pitch well, but like if you put him in a position where he has to win, then like that's a whole nother story. And I think that's what they did in game 3. And that's why I said like in game 2, if they would have put them in a good position to win and just played their game and let Tampa play their game, and just like overall, like that's the point of the playoffs. Like the best team's gonna win. Period. And by them trying to like, contort themselves into like the Rays style of play, that goes to show you that the Rays had them spooked. And that whole like them winning 8 out of 10 games against us the whole year wasn't like a fluke. Like they had us beat. And I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit when I talk about, what they, going forward, what they could do. Um I like the bounce back in game 4. Like I told you, Joel, that, before after game 3, I was like, even though like this was a bad game, I feel confident. I mean, not confident. I felt optimistic to game 4. I thought Montgomery would have pitched well enough to win, and I thought like they would score enough runs to win, and that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Um, but the other thing is like to me, like Judge and DJ, other than the first game, like they kind of like disappeared, and that's your 1 and 2 hitter. So they kind of like set the tone for the offense, and in the last like 3 or 4 games, especially for Judge, like they weren't really like doing much. Um, how do you feel about the rest of the series as a whole?
Like as a whole, it was like you said, Judge and LeMahieu. Like LeMahieu was batting champ, and hopefully it's nothing like medical. The reason why he was hitting or lack of hitting, hopefully it's nothing like that. Obviously, it could just be fatigue. So hopefully, that's the reason why he wasn't hitting. But obviously, it's disappointing, and as well as Judge too. Because Judge is another one who in the postseason usually shows up, gets the big hits when he can, and he's another one too that he's more of a complete hitter. He's the most complete hitter because he can get on base, he could draw walks, he can obviously hit home runs, but he could hit. He's an all-around hitter. But even he wasn't getting on base. He wasn't drawing walks. He was swinging at pitches in the dirt, like the pitches were bouncing before it got to the plate, and he was swinging at them. I'm like, where's your patience at the plate? Like, where did that go? It was a little bit disappointing because he did come up. He had a few home runs,
Yeah.
so it wasn't that disappointing. But LeMahieu was a bit disappointing. But like I said, it's more concern. Hopefully, it's not an injury thing. This team gets injured a lot, been
Mhm.
injured randomly. So hopefully, it's not like an injury thing. Hope like he just got fatigued or whatever. But he did have a heck of a regular season, that's for sure. And other than that, just like the overall just lineup, Boone and the lineup, because is that you just got to do You just got to start playing small ball again. Act like this is how you're playing the game. How you grew up playing the game. Just act like it. Act like that for once. You know what I'm saying? Like play small ball. You know, whatever fast runner is on base, steal the base. You don't have
Hmm.
to wait for Boone. You know, for Boone sign or any manager. Just steal the base. You know, use your instincts. If you know you're fast enough, run, steal the base. That's how you win games. Like, or that's how, especially if your home run hitting team isn't hitting home runs, that's how you win games. Small situations like that. So that's just like my overall disappointment with the lineup and Boone just going by analytics or whatever, just him not using his gut instincts.
Yeah. And like the last thing I want to talk about with the series is so game five. This ain't really nothing I have to do with like the stuff in the actual game, but like me watching as a fan and probably I get superstitious. But I said it to you when we were watching it. I was like, from the time they showed that video of the game when Chapman threw allegedly at Brissot's head. Like I was like, like in my head, I was like, something's gonna happen here. I was like, either Chapman's gonna embarrass him, strike him out, make him pop up, make him look foolish, or the other way around, he's gonna do the same thing to Chapman. And obviously, that was that. Like I understand, like TBS, and even if it was on Fox, they would have probably like showed it anyway. But from the time I saw that, like I got superstitious. And I was like, I knew things wasn't gonna end up. But they only needed, let's be clear, because we've put the lineup in we put them on fire here. We lit them up, but they were scoring runs in the series. And I think if the pitching outside of Cole was better, like the series would have got won. And you seen how well like Montgomery pitched. I'm like, why wasn't Montgomery like a candidate to start game two if you're not going to Tanaka either? Um,
Yeah.
but they did a lot of stuff, and I said it in the I tweeted it too. I was like, if they lose, like Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone created a lot more questions than I think they have answers to. And you know, game five was where we got eliminated, and but I think game two is where we lost the series. I think if game two went different, you might have saw like a different outcome. As far as pain goes, like we talked about it on the podcast, like 2004, like that's pain. Like this series, it was like euthanasia because, like I said it in the first episode of this that we did. Like I really didn't have a lot of confidence in the team, and to be honest with you, Joel, like when I say this, like it's gonna make sense. Like how they played this series is basically how they played the season. Like they started off real good, and you feeling confident as hell. Like when they got out to like a 16-6 start, like I thought like they was gonna go like 50-10, and then they went like 5-15, and then you're like, all right, not like they might not make the playoffs. Then they go 10-0, and you're like back confident again, and then you see how they ended the season, and like I said it, I tweeted it. I was like, I don't think like the realist in me felt like they weren't gonna like be in the postseason for long, but the fan in me was hoping I was wrong. But the realist outbeat the fan.
Like that's why I always look things from the jump as a realist. Like even like I want to say like yeah, I started obviously having my doubts too, especially when like team just started losing. Like you said, like 5 or 15 or whatever it was.
Hmm.
That's when I started having like my own doubts. And it's just from the jump, I already knew that it's a 60 game season. So that's how I always had in my mind. 60 game season. This isn't a full season. This isn't the usual the regular 162 game season. It's only 60 games, and it is what it is. And like as the Yankees, we play better at home with the home field advantage and the crowd, the stadium, that energy. We always play better regardless. So I feel like, let's just say that the stadium had fans, probably would have been a different season, because just to have that New York energy in the field, we probably would have won whatever game. We wouldn't have lost any game. I feel like if we were home, like with the Yankee Stadium crowd. So, but like I said, the way this season, the regular season, I didn't really. It is what it is. 60 games. I saw us going into the postseason. I saw us going there. Obviously, did I see us winning? Yes. Obviously, we lost yesterday, but I saw us winning the whole thing. I was being hopeful. Just sadly, that's just not how it went.
Yeah.
Because I was being hopeful, but the realist in me just already knew 60-game season is not that bad. It's not that. You know what I'm saying? That's the realist in me.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah,
Yeah, like I had the same feelings too. Like when I knew it was like a 60-game season, all of these teams was making the playoffs. I knew it left like the door open for a lot of like goofiness to get abound. Um and like um that wild card series, the COVID, especially like another thing with the Yankees that disappointed me is like nobody opted out. So you basically had your full team, which is like an advantage that a lot of teams didn't have. Like a lot of players like prioritized their health and their family's health over playing. I mean, not to say that's like a knock on like the players who did decide to play, but I'm saying like that's something where the Yankees didn't have an issue. So you had basically the team that you were expecting to have. Now, by that I mean, yeah, like Severino got injured, Paxton got injured, um, and they experienced injuries throughout the year. But overall, the team you anticipated having, like that's the team you had, and they still lost. They still got beat by a team, you as a fan, a Yankee fan, have grown to hate. This is the fourth straight year that we've lost to like teams we totally dislike. Um, but I can't write it off like, oh, like this year, like, because I did feel that way. I was like, yo, if we win it this year, like, cool, that's great. But if we don't, I'm not gonna hold it against them because the weirdness of the year. Let's just use it as preparation for next year. But at the same time, like the history books, like it's still like a MLB season. Somebody's still getting a World Series trophy. The only thing we
yeah,
know is that it won't be the Yankees again for the
exactly.
11th straight year. And when we did the podcast, like and we were talking beforehand and the outtakes, I was like, this Yankees team, it just reminds it's like the 80s Yankees where like they win a lot in the regular season. I mean, back then they didn't have like the expanded playoffs, they didn't have wild cards and stuff like that. So it was a lot of times like the Yankees used to finish second in the AL East. Like they finished second and third a lot more than anybody else. That's all it meant. But that's the same thing with this Yankee team. Like they're never. I think like I don't know if you remember me saying it because I think we watched game 7. Um, did we watch game 7 at a bar together, or was it game 6 in 2017? And I said to you, I was like, their motivation is to try to be like the number one team in the American League. And over the last 4 years, like, yeah, we finally won a division again last year. And we've won a 100-game season, but we've not been the best team in the American League where we could get a home field advantage. Like home field advantage against Houston would have helped. Home field advantage against
Yeah,
Boston would have helped. Home field advantage in this series would have probably helped because we would have been batting last night. And I don't know where the motivation is and why it's not with the Yankees now. But let's talk
I said,
about. Mhm.
okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Like I said earlier, earlier on the podcast, that is rest in peace, Hank Steinbrenner, and rest in peace, George Steinbrenner. They were the fire of, the Yankees. Like Hal has always been just a calmer, laid back guy, like always. And I feel like, with Hal, rest in peace again, Hank, with Hal being, majority. Well, I don't know how it's split up or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he's the majority owner, or like he makes the majority decisions. With him making the majority decisions and him being a lot more softer, that's why the team is soft like that. Because Hank would have definitely had a whole pep talk before every single game. Like, you guys suck. Like, he would have really had the team like scared to lose. The same thing like George. They would have had the team scared to lose. George probably would have had a whole ad out on the paper, like George, like rest in peace, George and Hank. You know how they were. Like they would have had the team on fire. So, but that's what the Yankees need too. Like, Hal needs to, just toughen up a little bit, bro. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Be like your brother and your father. Rest in peace to them.